It was minus 48 degrees Celsius. Jack heard scratching at his door, soft, desperate. When he opened it, a German shepherd stood trembling, eyes full of urgency. Behind her, 3 tiny puppies huddled in the snow. But what she did next would shock him to the core. This wasn't just survival. It was something greater. Jack lived alone on the edge of a small, frozen town in northern Canada, a place where winter didn't knock politely. It broke the door down. That week, temperatures had plunged to a brutal minus 48 degrees Celsius. The air itself felt like shards of glass, and everything outside moved slower. If it moved at all, snow blanketed the land like a thick, suffocating silence. His wooden cabin creaked under the weight of the frost, and even the trees looked like ghosts of themselves, wrapped in layers of white. Most wildlife had vanished weeks ago. Survival wasn't just difficult here, it was a battle fought daily. Jack, a retired mechanic with rough hands and a soft heart, had grown used to solitude. He spent his days sipping coffee by the fire, fixing old radios, and talking to no one but the wind. Nothing ever changed, until that knock came. Jack paused, mug of coffee in hand, uncertain whether he'd imagined it. But then it came again. Soft, desperate. He walked slowly to the door, hesitant. Opening it meant letting in a brutal chill that could freeze pipes in minutes. He unlatched the lock, braced himself, and swung it open just enough to peek out. What he saw stopped him cold. That a German shepherd stood on his porch, her fur caked with snow, her eyes locked on his with an intensity that went beyond fear. Behind her, 3 tiny puppies shivered, huddled together in a pitiful bundle. Their breaths came in short, frantic puffs that vanished instantly in the icy air. She didn't bark, didn't move, just looked at him, pleading. Jack's first instinct was disbelief. A mother dog? With puppies? Out here? In this cold? It was impossible. Or at least it should have been. But there they were, trembling on his porch, half frozen and silent. And still, the mother didn't cross the threshold. She stayed rooted in place, her body shielding the pups, her eyes silently begging him for something far more than shelter. Jack stood frozen in the doorway, the bitter wind slicing through his coat. His mind raced. Bringing in stray animals, especially in weather like this, was risky. What if they were sick? What if they carried something? But then his eyes met hers again. Not wild, not panicked, just pleading. One of the puppies let out a weak whimper and slumped sideways in the snow. That was it. Jack's instincts kicked in. He dropped to his knees, scooping the tiny bodies into his arms, his hands trembling, not from the cold, but from urgency. He stepped aside, motioning for the mother dog to enter. She hesitated, then slowly followed, never taking her eyes off her pups. Inside, Jack laid them by the fireplace, wrapping them in an old blanket. The warmth began to return, barely, but it was something. Life was flickering, and in that moment, so was trust. The mother dog paced anxiously as Jack tended to her puppies. She didn't curl up beside them like he expected. Instead, she kept glancing toward the front door, letting out soft, insistent barks. Not aggressive, more like a warning, or a call. Something wasn't right. Jack looked at her, puzzled. "What is it, girl?" he murmured. She barked again, more urgent this time, then trotted to the door, pawing at it. The pups were safe now. Warm. Federal. But she clearly wasn't finished. Her body was tense, her eyes full of something Jack hadn't seen before, determination mixed with fear. Reluctantly, Jack pulled on his heavy coat and gloves, grabbed a flashlight, and opened the door. Without hesitation, the mother bolted into the snow. Jack followed, crunching through the drifts as she led him away from the house, around the edge of the property, toward the old, collapsed tool shed. She squeezed through a narrow opening. Jack dropped to his knees, shining his light inside, and froze. There, buried in a shallow pocket of snow and hay, lay a 4th puppy, barely breathing, limp, icy to the touch. She hadn't come for shelter, she'd come for a rescue mission. Jack didn't hesitate. He reached into the shed, gently lifting the tiny, frozen body into his arms. The pup was so cold it barely felt alive. "Hang in there, little one," he whispered, wrapping it inside his coat. The mother dog stayed close, circling nervously, her breath fogging in the frigid air. Back inside the cabin, Jack moved fast. He added more wood to the fire, placed the pup beside its siblings, and rubbed its tiny body with a warm cloth. Minutes passed like hours. No movement. No sound. The mother sat motionless, eyes fixed on her baby. Jack leaned in closer, refusing to give up. Then, finally, a twitch. A shallow breath. The smallest sound, like a squeak. Jack smiled through misty eyes. That's it, you're safe now. He wrapped the puppy in an old wool sock and held it close to the fire. Life was returning, slowly but surely. As the night wore on, Jack didn't sleep. He stayed beside the pups, watching over them with the mother dog curled nearby. She never left their side, but every now and then, she looked at Jack with something like gratitude. By morning, all 4 puppies were nursing, their tiny bodies huddled together. Jack couldn't stop smiling. He named them Snowy, Frost, Ember, and the little fighter, Spirit. And the brave mother? He named her Hope, because that's what she had brought with her, not just for her pups, but for him too. The veterinarian, a kind woman named Dr. Keller, ran a full checkup. She was astonished. This mother, she's a miracle, she said softly, examining Hope's worn paws and underfed body. Most dogs wouldn't survive one night out there, let alone keep 4 puppies alive. There was no microchip, no collar, no sign of an owner. After some investigation, Dr. Keller shared a chilling theory. Hope had likely escaped from an illegal backyard breeding operation that had shut down weeks earlier during a snowstorm. No one had gone back for the dogs. Hope had been alone all this time, pregnant, starving, and wandering through deadly cold with newborns in tow. And yet, she didn't give up. Somehow, through blinding snow and frozen ground, she found Jack's house. Dogs know where it's safe, the vet said. She didn't pick your place by accident. Jack looked at Hope, resting peacefully with her pups. She had trusted a stranger, not for herself, but for her babies. And in doing so, she reminded him of something he'd long forgotten, that even in the coldest moments, life still finds a way to ask for help. Jack never planned on becoming a dog owner, let alone a father to an entire furry family. But after what they'd all been through together, the thought of giving them up felt unthinkable. He officially adopted Hope and her 4 puppies. The paperwork felt simple compared to the bond they had already formed. His quiet cabin transformed. The once silent rooms now echoed with tiny paws skittering across the floor, playful yelps, and the constant thump of wagging tails. Jack laughed more, smiled more. He even started talking to the dogs like they were his kids. Hope followed him. Everywhere, her loyalty unwavering. Always watching, always grateful. The local community, touched by the story, chipped in, donating food, blankets, toys, and even offering to help with vet costs. Jack had always lived alone, but now he felt surrounded by more love than he ever imagined. As the puppies grew stronger each day, Jack often sat by the fire, sipping his coffee with Hope at his feet, thinking back to the night she first appeared. That moment of scratching at the door had changed everything. In saving her puppies, Hope had unknowingly rescued Jack too. From loneliness, from routine, from a life waiting to be filled. Sometimes, the coldest nights bring the warmest miracles. Hope didn't just fight for survival. She followed instinct, heart, and trust to find the one person who would listen. If this story touched your heart, give it a like, share it with someone who loves animals, and subscribe for more true stories like this.